With the release of Jujutsu Infinite, the game is finally out for the public, and I can very much say it hasn't changed much, if at all, since testing, really. Like, genuinely, the last time I played the game during testing was maybe 6 months ago, and I can't really tell a single difference other than the fact that the quest NPCs are now around the map instead of just in the main hub area. Regardless, I'm going to be telling you guys everything I personally don't like much about the game, and lots of issues which I have found. Make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed. Now let's get straight into it. First of all, I personally hate the way the map is designed. Everything is super big. Like, I understand the aesthetic approach for making everything large, but in-game it makes you feel like an ant when the building doors all look like huge barn doors for some reason. Like, the entire map is actually massive. And about the map, I kinda hate the hub. You start the game in a hub, and when you press J, you drop in and skydive like it's Fortnite. And it's kinda jarring, like it's weird. Why is this in the game? And I guess it's in the game because of the massive map that's full of dead space. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a bit. But like, the map is so massive that you can kinda just fly. Like, they just added flying to the game, I guess. You dash by pressing E, and I guess Q is a shorter dash, but it's more like a dodge. But E is also a targeted dash when used in combat, which is, I guess, used to set you up for combos because it auto tracks and guarantees a hit. Regardless, if you pull out your fists, a funny little piece of tech is that pressing R to crit will air stall you. So you can do Q, E, and R in repetition to fly infinitely in any direction, which is really stupid. And the game's been pretty stupid with its movement from the beginning, but it's kind of just gotten worse over time. Regardless, it is kind of needed because the massive map is so big it becomes a chore to go anywhere in relation to quests, which is probably why they added the airdropping stuff. But you guys could have had a much smaller map. Like, the map is so insanely large that if they made it maybe a third of its current size, it would probably still be too impractically large to traverse anywhere. And then the map is just full of dead space where monsters spawn. Like, empty fields of grass and nothing in them, and then just monster spawns. Like, there's supposed to be countryside parts of the map, which have like a bunch of tilled soil, where I guess it's supposed to be like farmland. But even that part is like, it sucks, because okay, there's power lines, you know, like the Japanese countrysides, you can just see the wooden power lines going down. But, you know, they lead to nowhere because there's no real cities except for the dead, boring ones with the big houses with nothing in them. And then you have these countrysides, and then there's nothing but curses there, so it's literally like a base plate. The game looks and functions like a base plate. There's nothing to the map at all. Which brings me to the combat, which has changed a bit since testing, but not significantly. But originally, when I started playing the game during testing, people actually tried to learn combos, since the main combat moves actually synergize pretty well. And with you being capable of getting up to 4 curse techniques, many people back in testing would actually try to do cool stuff. But since the release of this game, it's kind of just turned into move spam in both the PvE and PvP, which is super lame. Because when the fighting was more combo oriented, or at least had the potential for combos, it was actually fun. Like, I was having fun with the game back then. And then people would switch between the curse technique moves and the normal combat moves to do, you know, actual cool stuff with it. But now it really just involves spamming AoEs. And about the PvP specifically, any fight with an actual person just devolves into spamming moves and then eventually a domain clash that decides the fight. And it's so stupid because the way the game is right now, domain clashes really do decide the fight. If you are at 15,000 health and this other guy's at like 500 health and he domains and then you lose the clash, you'll probably just lose the entire fight depending on what domain he has. If he has Judge Man, you're losing the fight. If he has Infinity, you're losing the fight. If he has, I don't know, Sukuna's Shrine curse technique, you could maybe win the fight if you hit him in his domain, but you're probably losing the fight. And I can't wait for people to start using cheats to do the domain clash in like a quarter of a second, because when the entirety of PvP is decided by one move, it means everyone starts speccing all their stat points into the domain upgrades, which is super lame. Like, yeah, I could put points into upgrading my innate technique or my black flash or my body and health and all that, but why would I ever do that when I could just max out my domain, and if I fight anyone who doesn't have a maxed out domain, I'll just automatically win regardless of any other factors to the fight, because all that matters is domains. And speaking of PvP, all they could add on release was ranked. The game's been in testing for so long and it's changed minimally since I've played it in the last year. Like, the game, I feel like it was delayed a year because the devs just wanted to take a year-long break from development, because it hasn't changed. It really hasn't changed. Why delay this game's release for so long just for it to end up almost the same on release? It seems like all they worked on was the game's curse techniques in the last few years, because the quests are minimal and boring bandit beater generic, boring, lame, stupid, dumb, boring quests. The PvP options only mode is ranked 1v1s, which are about as easy to implement to the game as they are to understand. Like, and then the other 2 PvP modes, one of which was supposed to be culling games as like a battle royale, isn't in. You know, they've been planning to do it since, I don't know, a year ago. It's just not implemented. It's just so bad. The only upside which I can give them is for some bosses, which, by the way, one of the easiest bosses, like actual bosses, not mini bosses who are all terrible, one of the easiest bosses is Dagon, and he is by far the best designed boss in the entire game. He's one of the easier ones, but it's for the opposite reason for why the hard bosses are hard. Dagon has clear-cut patterns, well-designed attacks that you can learn with skill, and if you practice Dagon enough, you could probably flawless him. And I don't mean to compare it to Souls games, because this isn't on the same level as any FromSoft or Souls-like game, or anything like that, but he's comparable in quality, scaled down to a Roblox level to a Souls boss, because he's actually really well done. I love the Dagon boss. Now, as for the other bosses, Mahito, for example, is terrible. He spams attacks and moves around so fast you have no window to attack him without taking damage, unless you spam ranged moves or have super fast melee moves capable of evading afterwards. And even then, you'll probably still guarantee to take damage. Like, I don't think you could solo this fight without being, you know, super bored because you're just running around spamming ranged moves. Even if you learn his patterns, it doesn't matter because they're too fast to fight him without taking damage, so you better have enough health and be strong enough to casually kill Mahito. So, yeah, don't go up onto the higher difficulties unless you're really strong. It really seems like the only efforts to PvP went into the bosses, which is kind of annoying because the bosses highly vary in quality, and when you're fighting anything other than a boss, it's likely that it's just enemy spam, which you have to deal with, which isn't fun, or the mini-bosses, which all suck. Like, the boss that drops the Rot Heart, I forget what it is, like the Rot Temple Sigil boss thing. All of those, well, they're basically copy and paste. They suck. They're terrible. They all just spam curse technique moves, and once they reach half health, they domain. And then you're just gonna spam your moves against them and maybe domain. And it's terrible. It is genuinely so boring. Because they, like, kept them in the game, I guess, to pad out quality, or, like, content. And then because they were padding out content by keeping these really terrible mini-bosses in the game, they're sacrificing quality because they are the worst things in the entire game. They suck. And why don't we talk about how much money this game costs to have fun? If you want 2 more curse technique slots, that will be 400 Robux each. Extra emote slots are only 150. Neither prices are actually that bad. But let's see the actual useful game passes. Because when the game limits you to 8 moves, having 4 curse techniques isn't actually that good. I mean, some people like it because then they can get all 4 special grades. But, you know, special grade techniques are a 0.25% chance. So, I mean, good luck with that, man. You're gonna have to spend some more money on this game. Anyway, the first one is Heavenly Restriction, which, for example, is 1,700 Robux, so about $20 US. I'm not sure about now, but back in old testing, it was extremely powerful and broken, making you immune to domains and basically hard countering every curse technique in the game. Meaning the only fair fight a Heavenly Restriction user could have in order to not get stomped by anyone half decent using Heavenly Restriction was by paying $20 and also getting Heavenly Restriction. Like, you just weren't going to have a good fight. You know the first fight between Gojo and Toji? Yeah, that's every fight between a Heavenly Restriction user and a non-Heavenly Restriction user. At least back in testing it was. Now it might be nerfed. And of course, this game sells an item notifier for the low price of just under $30. I mean, why wouldn't it, you know? And, you know, also the chance of getting a special grade curse technique being 0.25%. I have Infinity in Sukuna's Vessel, which luckily they let me keep from testing, but we were fortunate enough during testing to get 500 rerolls per code, and since I'm a YouTuber, I got in for free. But you guys aren't so lucky with the recent codes, giving like 1/10 of that. So if you didn't pay $30 to get your fill of this game a year ago, which by the way, I promise you I got my fill of this game a year ago, because I can't even play it right now without getting bored because it hasn't changed at all. So now you just have to pay like $300 worth of Robux to have fun, unless you only spend $20 for the Heavenly Restriction and $30 for the item notifier so you can get the Inverted Spear of Heaven, which is a super rare drop. Otherwise, feel free to go frick yourself, unless you're lucky, gotta curse less. And oh my god, the music is terrible, I'm so tired of it. I don't know if the game only has 1 song, but since testing I've only heard 1 song, because it just, you know, attributes to how lazy the devs are. Not that they care about being lazy, because their game has 250,000 players right now. But, like, I'm so tired of this song. It plays on loop over and over again. Imagine playing this game, grinding to level 350 back when that was the max when I was playing, and you're just listening to this on loop. The song sucks! Oh my god, it sucks. Whoever composed this, fire them. It's not even like a good cover of the song it's supposed to be. It's the Jujutsu Kaisen opening, but it's put on like a little melodic piano xylophone beat. I hate it. It's terrible. Whoever made it, I'm sorry to insult your composition ability, and it might just be because I've been hearing it on loop for like the 50 hours of playtime I have on this game, but fuck you and your song! Regardless, this game is whatever. If you enjoy mindless fighting and gambling, you'll probably like it. Many people are disappointed, but I'm sure the devs don't care much, seeing as how, you know, 250,000 people on the game who complained about paying $30 for testing are probably spending like $300 on rerolls. So they're just getting their money. Make sure to subscribe. Shoutouts to Brick, Goobka, and Jersey Drake fan. If I missed anything that you guys hate about the game, leave it down in the comments down below. I love you all. Have an amazing day as usual, and goodbye.